Grading every championship manager so far this season. This is going to be quite an interesting one. Please feel free to get involved in the comments below. And if you'd like me to do more videos like this, let me know in the comments below, obviously. And please, subscribe. Doesn't hurt. And it's free. So please, let's get, what are we on? 1,000, not 1,000, we've passed that already. 2,125 subscribers. Let's get to 2,126 at the very least. Yeah, I'd like to get more than that, quite frankly, so you know, subscribe, cheers. Anyway, staying on topic, I'm going to grade upwards from 24. I was going to do this on tier list, but I thought I'd actually just do it as a list this time. And obviously there have been managers that have been sacked, namely Mick McCarthy, Neil Warnock, Chris Hughton, thank the Lord. Also Marcus Schopp at Barnsley, and obviously, just yesterday, I can't say his first name, Jukanovic, that guy, harshly, really, and that's where we're starting. 24th place, it has to be Paul Heckingbottom. Can I talk today? 24th place, it has to be Paul Heckingbottom, given the fact he's not actually managed the game yet, and it does seem quite a deluded decision from Sheffield United. Now, of course, I'm approaching all these bar one from a neutral perspective, so it will be different to, you know, if you're a fan of one of these clubs, of course, but it seems incredibly toxic, and like they're just making it up as they go along right now at Sheffield United. You get rid of a very experienced, proven manager in the Championship who, yes, okay, he hadn't started the best, but still it seems a little bit deluded to sack him after 3 months, basically. And then you appoint your assistant manager, who was in charge temporarily last season, on a 5-year deal. Something doesn't compute there. In 23rd place, and again, these first two are really just based off the fact that they've managed 2 games. It has to be the new Barnsley manager, and that is what I'm going to call him, because I'm not going to try and pronounce his name. He's played 2 games and lost both of them, and he's with a Barnsley side that have gone from being 3rd in the league to being relegation fodder, which is kind of what you expect from Barnsley, but the fact that they've dropped off like they have done, I knew there'd be a drop off, but I didn't think they'll just go straight back down to being a very, very poor side. And yeah, he's got a massive job on his hands right there to keep that Barnsley team out of League One. And to be honest, I do think they're going to go from being a playoff team to League One next season, even with this new guy in charge. And I don't know much about him. All I know, he was from the Swedish youth setup. 22nd place then, I have gone for Frankie McAvoy. I think I'll be quite a popular pick for a lot of people doing this because he's doing poor, and I think a lot of Preston fans want him out. He's been on thin ice for quite a while. Of course, he was appointed as the temporary manager last season. He had a good end to last season, winning the last 3-4 games, I believe, one of them against Forest, of course, and then he got the permanent job, and that always tends to go downhill whenever a caretaker boss gets it permanently. It doesn't really feel like there's much direction right now at Preston. It just feels like they're just, you know, they're just here, they're just vibing, you know, just losing quite badly occasionally, then they get the odd win, like against Borough the other day, which, you know, has definitely prolonged McAvoy's tenure at Preston, but I don't see him being the long-term heir or reign, you know, at Preston North End right now. 21st place, I've gone for Darren Ferguson of Peterborough United. This might be a little bit harsh given the fact, you know, ultimately he is managing one of the worst teams in the division, and obviously Peterborough this season, they've had their moments where they've looked like they could stay up. Their home form is really what is carrying Peterborough this year, but their away form, they've only won 1 on the road all season away at Hull. That does need to improve, and they've shipped the most goals this season, 38 goals. I know it's easy to say, well, he manages a poor team, so he's got to be a poor manager. That's far from the truth, you know, most of the time. You know, look at Borough, they're struggling, but they've got a really, really good manager in charge, you know. In 20th place, I've picked Nigel Pearson. I think it's justified given the fact that Bristol City are pretty terrible, to be honest. They get the occasional good win, like against Stoke the other day, but their home form until recently was absolutely diabolical. They've won 2 of the last 3 home games, so they are starting to pick up, but I mean, that's not really good when you consider what it was like before that. Away from home, they're not much better either. In 19th place, I've gone for PAUNOVIC of Reading. I think it is worth pointing out that there should be a bit of an asterisk next to his name, given the fact that Reading are in a transfer embargo and have had a points deduction, so straight away there's a big disadvantage there for him. But then again, they haven't really been playing the best football this season. Just looking how they played against Forest, they had a lot of the ball, but they didn't really do much with it. And I noticed that when Forest changed the system in that game to 5 at the back, Reading couldn't cope with it at all. They went from dominating to just being pretty mediocre, not even really looking like they were going to go and get the win, because before we changed formation it looked like Reading were going to win that game if anyone was going to do that, and I just think it can't be that encouraging, really, can it? 18th place, I've gone for Wayne Rooney. I'm not being biased. I think it's about fair, because you have to give him credit. Give him the way Derby are right now. I'm going to try and be unbiased here. Obviously, Derby are an absolute state, and it's pretty funny, but still, what he's got to work with, quite a thin squad, plus the fact they've been docked minus 21 points. The fair play to the way they've reacted. They've gone and got a win against Bournemouth and a draw away at Fulham. You know, they're one of the few teams to stop Fulham scoring this season, and you would never ever guess that. So, I mean, fair play to them, but the key thing is, can they continue doing that the whole season? Because they've got to basically play every single game at their absolute best. They've got to act like it's a cup final every single game to stand any chance. But I'm just thinking, will they continue doing this all season? I'm just not so sure. In 17th place, and again based off just a handful of games, is Steve Morrison of Cardiff City. Again, a little bit like Sheffield United. They get rid of their manager and they appoint the assistant or caretaker boss, obviously. I believe he's only there until the end of the season, so it does feel a little bit like just a short-term fix. Not really an idea of where they want to take Cardiff. I mean, they've gone from losing every single game, they lost 8 in a row, to losing 2 in 5, and it's still not great. They've only won 2 in 5 as well, but, you know, at least he has stopped the rut. He stopped the rut of losing every single week, and that's the most important thing. 16th place, I've picked Tony Mowbray. Despite the fact that Blackburn are in 7th place, it does appear like he is on borrowed time, and I've seen a lot of Blackburn fans say that he needs to go, and that has been the case for a long time. You know, even I'd say about the last year at least, I've seen calls for Mowbray to move on, and he has done a lot of that club. Obviously he got them relegated because we stayed up obviously all those years ago, but you know, he's been there a long time, gotten back up, but since then they haven't really done anything bar just survive. And you know, they've been mid-table, to be fair to them. They've always been a tough game, but they're not really going anywhere, and I think that's why they want him gone, because the football's not the best. And honestly, after that 7-0 defeat to Fulham, I really thought that would be it for him, but he's managed to keep his job somehow, and they've won a few since then as well. They beat Peterborough 4-0 the other day, so you know, it looks like he's kept his job a bit longer. Now this one's pretty difficult, because there's no way that this guy is only the 15th best manager in the Championship. Obviously I'm talking about Chris Wilder. He is not the 15th best manager in the Championship. I'd say he's top 3, because I rate Wilder incredibly highly. I wanted him to come to Forest when Houghton went. It was either him or Cooper for me, and I'm delighted we've got Cooper now, but I would have been very happy if we got Wilder as well. And I have seen a few signs of, you know, Wilder ball being implemented at Middlesbrough. I've seen a few clips on Twitter of that, but obviously they're lost in pretty, you know, embarrassing circumstances, depressed and conceding 2 late goals to a team that, you know, pretty mediocre, you know, a team that Forest beat 3-0. That was pretty disappointing. A draw with Millwall, they're the draw specialist Millwall, as we'll talk about in a minute, but I just don't want to put him like really, really low down, so I think around about mid-table is about right. Now in 14th place, I definitely wouldn't have put this manager as high as this just a few weeks ago, but his recent form has been impressive at Hull City, that being Grant McCann. 3 wins in a row now, and suddenly Hull are 3 points in safety, and they were looking down and out at one stage, looking like it was going to be them, Barnsley and Derby going down, but I mean, I could see Hull staying up, I really could, the way they're playing. They've got some good results, and I think obviously the likes of Keane Lewis Potter is carrying them. I think he's fast becoming their modern day Jared Bowen, the man that carries them, but other than that, fair play to him, you know. And I know that his overall record isn't great. I have seen quite a few stats. It isn't the best when you look at it his entire time at Hull, but I mean, right now on form, I think I have to give him the benefit of the doubt. In 13th place, another manager that I rate quite highly in Lee Bowyer, but of course he's at Birmingham City, and Birmingham, it's in their DNA these days just to be mid-table in the Championship, and then at the end of the season they play like prime Barcelona. However, having said that, at the start of the season it did look like they were actually going to do that from the start, because they had a good start to the season. They were up in 4th. I remember when they beat Derby, they played pretty well in that game, because I remember watching that, and they were 4th in the league. And since then, they then lost about 5 games in a row. I think it was more, in fact. In fact, it was a 7-game winless run, including a 3-0 defeat to Peterborough, and a man sent off in that game. What a shocking away day that is. But ultimately, I just don't think they've got the squad, and I think he can, he can only work with what he's got. Now in 12th place, a manager that is also, I'd say, on thin ice, even though he is in 3rd place with West Brom, that being obviously ISMAEL. And I think a lot of people said that obviously Barnsley got 5th place last season with ISMAEL there, but they didn't exactly play the best football. And obviously West Brom have higher standards than Barnsley to get promoted, and I don't think it's really going to work at West Brom like it would at Barnsley, to be honest. People just said, well, it's the benefit of the doubt. They're doing incredible. They shouldn't be that high, whereas West Brom are expected to be that high. They're not really playing the best football at all, and I've seen a lot of West Brom fans say that he's not going to last the season, which from a neutral perspective does seem quite harsh, and honestly I probably would put him a bit higher if it wasn't for those rumours. In 11th place, I've gone for CRITCHLEY. I think he's done a fantastic job so far at Blackpool. I had a feeling Blackpool might do alright this season. I didn't think they'd be challenging for the top 10 and at times be in the playoffs, but I think a lot of that is down to CRITCHLEY because it is quite a young side that he's got at Blackpool, and of course he is a manager that came from Liverpool's youth team, so he's going to be more than aware of working with younger players, and the fact that he has worked at Liverpool is going to give him a huge amount of experience as well. But saying it's only his 2nd season as a proper manager, he's doing incredible. He got a Blackpool team promoted when they were struggling in League One at one stage last season, and of course now you don't even think the Blackpool are going to get relegated at all right now. They're playing some good stuff. They're a tough team to beat, and when Forest played them, we were holding on for quite a while in that game, because the second half, I remember Blackpool were dominating at one stage. So yeah, fair play to CRITCHLEY. So now for my top 10 managers in the Championship so far this season. In 10th place, a manager that I saw very recently in Nathan Jones at Luton Town. Now Luton didn't exactly play the best football against Forest on Tuesday. Yeah, okay, it was a 0-0 draw. Probably wasn't the best game to watch, to be honest, to get a fair reading, but I have seen a bit of Luton this season, and of course in typical Championship fashion they've lost 5-0 this season at home to Birmingham and won 5-0 at home to Coventry. That's the Championship in a nutshell, isn't it, really? But again, he's continuing that progression at Luton Town, becoming a very, very stable, solid Championship side, and I don't think that they're going to get even close to being a relegation level side. I don't think they'll get promoted. I think they'll be in and around the top 10, to be honest. I predicted them to get the top 10, and currently they're 12th, so I'm actually doing alright with that one. One of the few predictions that isn't embarrassing. So in 9th place, I've gone for Gary Rowett. I think it's a fair call. Millwall are doing well this season in 10th place, but they are the draw specialists, as I alluded to earlier. 9 draws this season, and this is pretty mental. 8 of them have all been 1-1, so it's not even like they're getting 3-3 draws occasionally. Thrilling football to watch. They're all pretty tense, and it's good in one sense that you can clearly tell that they're pretty solid at the back, but the fact that they can't score more than 1 goal quite often is a bit of an issue. You look at their top scorers, they haven't really got anyone that you look at and you think, yeah, they're going to probably score today every single time, because you look at them, it's pretty spread out, and in one sense that's good because they don't have to rely on one guy to go and get all the goals, and you probably would think that would be Jeb Wallace, obviously, but even though he's not even a striker. But you would like to see at least one guy just have, at least maybe 2-3 goals ahead of everyone else. That isn't the case, and I think that's their issue. They haven't really got anyone that, you can fully 100% rely on, he's going to score today. And I think that's their issue, Millwall. But of course, they're doing well enough because they're in the top 10. In 8th place, I put Russell Martin. Now, I think if this was earlier on in the season, I would have put him quite a bit lower, because obviously Swansea, from the very get-go this season, it was going to be probably quite a tough season because they've lost a lot of key personnel, obviously Steve Cooper being one of them. Russell Martin only really 1 season of management to his name with MK Dons in League One. But for the first time this season, Swansea are into the top 10. I mean, it took till November at the end of it, but it was always going to be a tough season, and obviously from the very get-go, you've got to give him the benefit of the doubt, the fact that he's taken over a team that probably aren't that high on morale after missing out on the top flight. And I think since they beat Cardiff after the second international break of the season, you have seen that they are starting to play better football, more consistently. They've got some good wins on the board. Obviously that Cardiff win was huge, beating West Brom as well. Obviously they lost heavily to Bournemouth, but other than that, yeah, you're starting to see that Swansea are starting to play some good stuff again. So in 7th place, I did not at all expect to be putting this guy as high as this. I've gone for Carlos Corbejan of Huddersfield Town. He's got a team that I predicted, and so many predicted, to be relegated this season or near it. fighting for promotion in 8th place, and they have been in the playoffs quite a few times this season. I don't think they will get the playoffs. I think they're definitely going to be a tough team to beat this season. They're not going to be, you know, falling off, in my opinion. I think they will be at least top 12 the way they're going, but I mean, fair play to them. They've done an incredible job so far at Huddersfield, and I think a lot of it is down to Carlos Corbehan, because obviously last season he came in as, you know, a manager that had no real experience as a first team manager, you know, but we're starting to see that he's, you know, he's definitely starting to learn his lessons. And obviously last season they did concede the most goals in the Championship. You're seeing this season, slowly but surely they're getting there, and I do also think that the emergence of Sorban Thomas has been quite a big part of that as well. So in 6th place, I've gone for Mark Robins, a manager that I think deserves a huge amount of credit for arguably the underdog story of the season in obviously Coventry City. And they're not even like doing it because they're getting a load of luck, they're just getting a few scrappy 1-0s. They are playing good football, and even though they didn't win this game, I saw their game against Sheffield last week and they controlled Sheffield United in their own backyard. Fair play to them, they're doing some good stuff, and I think he deserves a lot of credit. A team that finished 16th last season is now fighting for promotion. I do question, will they continue doing this for the whole season? The way they're playing, I don't see any reason why not. So in 5th place, I've gone for Mark Warburton. Give the man time, because Forest didn't do that, and obviously we sacked him, and he was only there for, what, a year and a half or something. He kept us up and then was mid-table and he got sacked. You saw QPR last season, they were literally a relegation candidate. Kept hold of him, it looked like he was on thin ice, and now they're one of the best teams in the division. They have got into a bit of a habit of conceding late goals, and if they haven't done that, maybe that gap from 2nd to 3rd wouldn't be so big, but I think QPR will definitely be in the playoffs the way they're going, and I think Mark Warburton's a huge reason for that. So in 4th place, I didn't want to be too biased. I arguably could put this guy a place higher. I put Stevie Cooper in 4th. I wanted to put him in 3rd, but I didn't want to be just seen as, I mean, it's still quite biased, really. But I think, come on, who's actually better than Stevie Cooper apart from the 3 I put ahead of him? Just look at the way he's turned us around. Obviously, it's not hard to do better than Chris Hughton, but I mean, for God's sake, we were bottom of the league, and now we've only lost 1 game under Steve Cooper in 2 months. It's immense. It's unbelievable, and that was against parachute payment team Fulham. He's massive. He's massive. He's taking us up. Probably not, to be honest, but we'll see. So, my top 3 managers, and you probably could say that 3rd place, I probably could put Cooper here, and I kind of wanted to, but I didn't want to get too carried away. I put Michael O'Neill in 3rd place. He's got Stoke playing some good football this season, finally. So many years of underachievement, 3 straight seasons back in the Championship, finishing below mid-table, and finally, they're starting to play like everyone said they were going to play in all 3 of those seasons. They're a playoff level team. I mean, they're not going to get top 2. I think they'll get top 6. And I think fair play to him. You know, he's been at Stoke for quite a while now, and he's finally starting to get Stoke playing some good football consistently to the point where they are challenging at the top end. I think the top 2 managers are obviously self-explanatory. It has to be, for me, Scott Parker in 2nd place. He's only lost 2 games this season, and yeah, okay, there were 2 teams that he should have beaten in Presser and Derby, but you know, if all the games to lose to, it was 2 teams that are doing poor. But I mean, come on, 2 games he's lost this season. They've thrashed so many teams this season. Obviously not as much as Fulham, but they are an incredibly good side with so much squad depth. Like, that team is absolutely stacked. Bournemouth 100%. I'll be amazed if they don't go back to the top flight next season. And in 1st place, it just had to be, didn't it? Marco Silva, absolutely cruising the division, but I mean, is he actually cruising the division, or are the parachute parents doing that? Because I think it's both. It's the fact that they've got a great manager and a fantastic squad, and you get relegated, you get a massive wad of cash. I just think it's wrong. You know, you're probably going to get a bit of money, but like, the fact that you get rewarded essentially for getting relegated, I just think it's so wrong. And the fact that that money lasts for like 2 seasons, obviously it's always going to be the teams that get relegated from any division. They're going to be the favourites to go back up because they were in a higher division, so obviously they're going to be one of the strongest in their new division. But if you just then go and give them a massive wad of cash to go and spend, they can just go and make their squad even better. So this is why parachute payments is so unfair in my opinion. And obviously it doesn't always work. Like Sheffield United, they got parachute payments, they're struggling. But 10 to 1, you see it happen every year. Norwich and Fulham, West Brom, Watford. I think for me, they're the top 4 bogey teams, particularly Norwich and Fulham. Every year, they're absolutely bruising it. They've already scored like 50 goals. Like, it's unbelievable, but it's also unfair and it's boring, quite frankly. But yeah, that was my little rant about parachute payments. But that was also my grading of every Championship manager so far this season. It's very important to point out this season. If it was overall, based off their entire career, I think this list will be quite different. I don't tend to do much Premier League content, but I watch the Premier League a huge amount, of course. I think everyone does, so I could definitely do maybe a Premier League version of this. I could grade Premier League managers, so yeah, if you'd like me to do that, let me know in the comments below and I'll get on that. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you very soon.